Welcome back to ATTV. I'm your host, Ben McLeod, founder of Convey Bio. I'm really excited to have a conversation with Dr. Edwin Stone, the CEO of Cellular Origins. Edwin, thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Excellent. So let's get right into it. So we've really been starting with a lot of these different conversations today with regards to kind of trends that people are looking at inside of the industry, and for you in particular, obviously scaling up production is something that a lot of people are focused on, especially inside of cell and gene therapies. What do you see as the major challenges that we're facing when it comes to that?
So we know that we are not getting the therapies to all the patients that can benefit from them. I mean, it's a real shame that all of the incredible biology that we've created over the last 10 years or so, we're not able to keep up with demand. And that's pretty unique, actually, in medicine more broadly. Normally, when you create a great therapeutic result, scale typically follows. But these are a new modality. You can't manufacture them, you can't scale them in the way that we can scale previous therapeutics. We can't do classic scale up. It's been said many, many times that this is a scale out industry. And what that means in the current paradigm is you need people to produce them, because there is no way, as the world stands at the moment, to remove those people from the process. And so what's really important in terms of ensuring that in the future we can actually get these therapies to people, and let's remember, last 12 months, we probably actually treated 10,000 patients with cell therapies. In total, we've probably treated about 30,000. And today, there's probably 70,000 people we could have treated. If we look at how the earlier line therapies are coming through, we're seeing therapies move from 3-4 into second line treatment, and I think in the next few years we'll see first line treatments too. We could see that number go up to 200,000 and by our forecast 500,000 by 2030. And what we need to do is extract that labour, ensure that we can produce these at scale so that we're actually treating those patients that can benefit from them.
Right. And so I guess that kind of leads into this idea of industrialization of cell therapy manufacturing. What does that mean, and why is it so needed inside of the industry?
Yeah, for me, industrialization is a really important word. We talk about success in cell therapy often around clinical approval, around getting your BLA back with a positive result, and of course that's a massive landmark for businesses. But that is not success, I don't believe. Having just got that approval, if you're not able to get that therapy to patients, then that is not success. And so we need to think about industrialization. Right. The great thing for me is this isn't a cell therapy specific challenge. The solution will inevitably involve some specific things per industry, but it's what every industry goes on this journey. I mean, take an example like automotive. Cars 100 years ago were all hand-built, of course, yes. And a chap called Henry Ford, who you might have heard of, made some strides around that, and now, of course, all cars are pretty much churned out on robotic production lines. We're at the same journey. We've got to where we've got to, quite rightly. I think it was always going to happen like this, using the human to be the most flexible tool to create new biologies. So it's no surprise to me that we've started here, and I think that's absolutely right. I think that's how most industries begin. But now we need to make sure we actively go through that transition. We mustn't get stuck in a pre-industrialized state. We must start looking at how we bring industrialization to this industry, how we bring, and the word automation is thrown around a lot. I think you have to be quite careful with it. I think the definition of automation means a lot of different things to other people. That's one reason why I prefer industrialization. But I think we need to industrialize the process, partly about removing people, partly about getting that process more under control, partly about reducing errors, because that's the thing that will enable us to achieve scale, reduce cost, and make sure we're getting high quality product to the patients.
Right. Yeah, again, I love the car analogy. I think it, especially in the context of CAR T and stuff, it's like, it's right there.
There's a pun in there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, kind of in this idea of starting to, automate or industrialize cell therapy manufacturing. Ultimately, collaborating on this together in order to make something that is much more cost effective and much more automated is going to be really important. What makes Cellular Origins partnerships different?
Yeah, I think We take a really big view of what collaboration and partnership means, and again, I don't think this is something that is our invention, frankly, much as we might like to claim it was. I think again, it's something that we've seen in every other industry that's been through this journey. So, if you'll indulge me in the car industry once again, there is not a single vendor that is responsible for creating the production lines that manufacture cars. You've got a combination of robotics manufacturers, you've got a combination of the people that make the press tools, you've got a combination of IT service providers, all having to work together to make that success. Now, I think the interesting thing about a field like cell therapy, which is quite new, and I think sometimes we fail to recognise just what stage of the journey we are, and we can think we're a bit more mature as an industry than we are, and I think that's an easy thing to do when you've been in the industry quite a long time. We've figured out a lot of the technical challenges, and I think we project onto that we've figured out many of the commercial challenges, and I don't think we quite have. And I think it's a lack of the right intent. I just think these are quite hard problems. You've got businesses who all have their own agendas, who all have boards and shareholders that they're responsible to. And so they've got to be quite diligent in thinking about how do we work together? Where are the competitive points? Where are the non-competitive points? And I think we are still figuring that out. And for us at Cellular Origins, what we're trying to do is bring together multiple people to work to solve the problem of scale, but really to look at where do we need to compete and where don't we compete. And for us, what that means is we work with all the leading tools providers. So here at Advanced Therapies Week, we've got listed on our stand, we've got Cytiva, we've got Fresenius, we've got Thermo, we've got Scale Ready. We're really able to bring together all of the leading tools, and those companies recognise actually what's best for customers and what's going to get to scale is to acknowledge that coming together, enabling customers to have free choice of the best unit operations, acknowledging for customer A, that might be unit operations 1, 2, 3. For customer B, it might be unit operations 2, 5, 6.
Right.
And I think that's really important. We need to be driven by the biology. The best biology needs to win. And so I think, for me, that collaboration is the only way to get that best biology to patients.
Right, and it really gives you the ability to take the best components that are best for your system, where you're not necessarily always using the same thing every time. You have the ability to kind of pick the different things off the shelf that you want. And
we really know that from the customers we work with. There's a lot of subtlety in that, right down to the individual choice for a unit operation that might be repeated throughout a process. Sometimes they'll choose one unit operation for one step in the process and a different one that nominally might have a similar sticker on the tin for another unit part of the process, because those bits in the process need just very subtly different things. They've spent time optimizing and adjusting, and this is complicated biology, and for me that's a really good thing, because cell therapy, I think its strength versus small molecule and biologics is the fact that it is a complex modality that enables us to go after disease indications that we've not managed to address before. But we're only going to be able to do that if we give the therapy developers access to the full range of tools that they can possibly use. And that's today, but also look around the show, there's great new tools coming online that they're going to be the tools that drive the future in 3, 4, 5 years. What we're seeing here today, launched or being used in preclinical trials, are going to be in GMP manufacturing. And we need to make sure that customers have got access to those too.
Excellent. So with regards to automation, there's a lot of different ways in which you can implement it, being it sub-automation, a fully manual process. You folks have chosen to go full automation. Why is that, and what drove that decision?
So that's really how we can ensure we can get the lowest possible cost of goods, the most therapies out the door. But there is a subtlety within that. Is we're a great believer in phase-appropriate automation. If we sit here and try and say, well, full automation should be implemented in preclinical or phase 1, that's not right for anybody. It's incredibly wasteful. We talk a lot in the industry about making sure we think about the route to scale early, and I think that's good. But I think what we shouldn't conflate that with is implementing too early things that are costly and divert from the therapy development. And the reason is purely, unfortunately, we're in a field where most of the therapies that go from preclinical and phase 1 will not see success at commercial. And so if every time we're spending tens of millions of dollars in doing things that will only ever yield benefit in commercial, that's money that's wasted.
Right.
It's not efficient use of capital. So what we're really keen on is think early about that route to scale. Hopefully know that the unit operations you've got and ideally are closed, and so that sets you up really well for then later on to be able to adopt a solution like Cellular Origins. We want to make sure we can offer full end-to-end automation, but again, for some customers that won't always be right, and we're very keen to work with customers to say, in certain cases, actually, the immediate need is, for example, around the expansion step. That's where you see most labour. Let's automate that, but know that we can build that out over time. And longer term, the other thing that I think is tricky to kind of articulate in this space where we've spoken about end-to-end so much, and that term's been a little overused, I think, is what does end-to-end really mean? We've tried to set things up, so we've built a mobile robot so that we can automate all of the processes within the clean room, but actually long-term, in the same way mobile robots are not limited to just one part of the manufacturing process in other industries, we can really go loading bay door to loading bay door, and we do see a future vision where we will be completely lights out. But that's not for now. For now, we need to focus on where there's the most labour, strip that out, but know that there's this route that we really can provide full automation in the future.
Excellent. So when you think of the specific needs of cell therapy developers, how can your approach best help those needs?
Yeah, and this is where we're fortunate. We're standing on the shoulders of giants in that we have some incredible automation tools now available to us, and so we draw on the best of those things like mobile robots, really exciting use of things like AI and ML to optimize some of those processes. Nice. But what we need to do is apply those in a way that works in cell therapy, and there's two really big drivers there. One is the biological piece, and the second is the regulatory piece. On the first, what that means is, firstly, is that freedom to choose the tools. If we start trying to force particular tools on people, we compromise the biology, so we're really keen to avoid that. Second is we need to ensure we've got the ability to move materials around in a completely sterile manner. I mentioned earlier about the importance of closed processes. That is critical, and that also flows through to the regulatory piece. That's what regulators really are demanding, and so that's why we've built our platform on tube welding. It means we don't have to change the consumables, which again is great for the therapy providers. It's familiar to the therapy providers, but it's also familiar to the regulators. They know tube welding, they trust tube welding, so the implementation of that has been key to unlocking our use of some of these advanced robotics from other industries. And so and the final piece around regulators is we've really got to think about the risk management of the implementation of these. Peter Marks at JPM last week was talking about his belief that automation is important here. He doesn't like the fact that the number of people are holding back scale. They create risk, they create potential for errors, and so they're supportive of it. But they're going to, of course, as they always do, want really good explanations from us about how we're going to manage the risk, how we're going to ensure robustness. Unfortunately, actually, a lot of the thinking that's gone in other industries can really help us here. Mobile robotics, for example, it's not a coincidence that's where the world's gone. It's a great route to ensuring you've got redundancy and robustness. If you've got a static robot that goes down, everything it services is now out of action until you can get that robot back up. Mobile robots, if you get a mobile robot goes down, another one can come in and take over. And so those sorts of things we believe are really important, ensuring that the regulators are going to have confidence in our approach as well.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's the advantage, right? There's loads of other people in different industries who have done a lot of the hard work, and so there's the ability to kind of take some of their learnings to apply it to the complex production of cell therapies.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's really kind of been our focus as we've built Cellular Origins over the last few years, is what do we need to create, what do we need to invent, what do we need to bring to market to allow us to access all of those great tools. And one of the really exciting things for me about that is by doing that, by unlocking that with things like sterile welding, with automated sealing, with the transport of consumables, with how we connect things together digitally, that really unlocks a whole load of what's going to happen in the future. So we're just at the start of the field of advanced automation, really. You look at some of the things that are happening around how robotics is harnessing AI. AI often means, things like ChatGPT and large language models. Actually, I think for me, the real excitement is how it's going to change things like robotics. Robots at the moment, for all their capabilities, are relatively dumb. They'll do the thing you tell them to do.
Yeah.
That's great for us for now, because that's the thing the regulators are comfortable with. So we mustn't jump too far ahead. But actually, it won't be long before robots are actually able to take much less structured command sets of being given a task description, say undertake this process, do that. Critically, they'll be able to self-error correct. If they see that they've done something and it's been dropped, they'll be able to pick it up and continue with the process. And that's not going to be too far away. And again, fortunately, we don't have to develop that. What we need to do is set ourselves up that we've got the tools. That means as those things come along, we can quickly translate that across. And so we very much see our platform, we make a step change now, but it gets better and better and better over time.
Right on. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming and being on, Edwin. This was a really interesting conversation. Where can people find you?
So we're at booth 434 here at ATW. We've got our collaborators on that stand, so it's a great chance not just to talk to us, but to talk to them as well about what they're doing.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming on, Edwin.